Hello and welcome to episode number 3 of Ask Abhijit. I'm your host Sree Iyer. As always, Abhijit, welcome to PGurus channel.
Vetrivel, thank you for having me on.
And viewers, a well vetrivel to you. And for viewers, those who are asking or wondering about what well vetrivel means, it is one of the war cries associated with Lord Shanmuga or Kartikeya or Lord Subramanya. And you all may already know this, but he is supposed to be the commander of the Devas forces, and anything that involves him. So all the kings used to invoke his name for victory in battles. Shanmuga is Shan is 6, Mukha is faces. So he had 6 faces in one of the manifestations. That's why it's called Shanmuga. And also he's also called Shadaksharam, which is 6 letters. Saravana Bhava, and so on and so forth. So for all those people who don't believe in the existence of God, who believe that there is a separate Tamil culture, somehow they seem to have been absent when it was related how Lord Subramanya is the son of Lord Shiva. So this is why most of the DMK, ADMK lumpens are referred to as Dumils. And some of you who don't know what Dumils is, Dumil is an empty shell. An empty shell will make the sound, but there is no bullet. That's why it's called Dumil. Anyway, so that was a quick segue into lessons of Tamil Nadu politics, because it is going to be front and center soon, and we both consider ourselves to know a thing or two about it. But Abhijit, today we had a morning session about LAC disengagement, and you and I had a very interesting conversation. So I'm going to jump straight into questions today, and this may be not just on LAC disengagement, but on other things also. But before we jump into that, I have a small request. Just wait for a second. Viewers, I would like you to consider becoming a member of YouTube. What does the membership give you? For example, it will give you some conversations that are not made official. For example, Abhijit and I have some offline conversation that we may share with you. It's hilarious usually. We touch upon just about every topic under the sun. And also, I can do a thing or two about programming, and these things I'll be happy to share with you. Now, if you look at the screen now, you're seeing a what is called as a JavaScript program that keeps changing the picture every 3 seconds. And if those of you who are interested in our members section, we may be able to get the code and play with it. This requires you to just have some simple programming skills. It's a lot of fun. You can bring a lot of pizzazz into your presentations at work. You can impress your colleagues, who knows, your girlfriend too. So these kinds of things we'll be sharing when you become a member. Not everybody may be interested. That is why these are all exclusive. So I'm just trying to tell you some of the benefits you're going to get by becoming a member of our channel. So we'll now jump right into our topic. Abhijit, the first question I have for you is from Pranay Dwivedi. U-turn in US policies, F-35 sale after Biden against Israel and Saudi. Do you think it will bring them closer? How will such relations affect India's ties in the Middle East?
So basically, what Biden tried to do was to hurt the lowest common denominator in this, what he thought was the lowest common denominator in this, which is the UAE, right? And the reason that they've done it, basically, is to fire a shot at Israel and Saudi Arabia, which have far more significant lobbying skills in DC than the UAE does. The UAE never does aggressive diplomacy. But the point is, Israel and Saudi Arabia have gotten the message, and you can see that they're already starting up a very careful, systematic campaign, which is going to get much more coordinated. This week, the I think Israel received the UAE ambassador, or UAE received the first ambassador to Israel. I forget which is which, and that is extremely significant. So yes, Biden is trying to act out. I don't think he understands exactly how powerful. He knows how powerful individually Israel and Saudi Arabia were in terms of lobbying in DC. He's going to find out what happens when they come together with UAE's sort of almost light touch, Saudi Arabia's money, and Israel's brute force.
Thank you for that answer. And Shashwat wants to know, please tell us how to solve the problems of education in India. Which education system is best suitable for India?
There is no education system that's best suitable for India. You have to develop one of your own based on your own needs, right? Now, the issue is you can come up with, say, it's very easy to say, let's do a Western intelligence thing, which is all problem solving. The problem is to, teach kids problem solving. You need to have problem solving. You need to have a a high teacher to student ratio. So no more than 20 students to a teacher. And the teachers themselves need to be extremely qualified. Where are you going to get that? So one of the things you have to possibly do is accept that there is going to be apartheid and maybe go in for the Soviet model of schools for exemplary children, where exemplary children have a different set of schools as opposed to normal kids who learn by rote. And even the learning by rote, you need to compress the syllabus down, because right now everybody thinks that their kid is going to be, you just have a useless engineering degree in hand. People don't even know how useful that degree is or not, and you think your kid is going to be the next Bill Gates, right? Or I don't know, in my generation it used to be Bill Gates. I think these days it's Steve Jobs or Sundar Pichai or whatever. So what you need to do is uh, give layer your education and compress the education. Today, for example, the 90% of what we studied in school is completely useless. I still don't understand why we had English literature, Hindi literature, Tamil literature, and Sanskrit literature when all you needed to do was pick up accuracy of language. This fetishization of language we have, and also this excessive fetishization of mathematics and science. You need to figure out what is the basic minimum required to make a factory floor workforce. Everybody gets factory floor workforce education level. If you are good at it, if you show automatic problem solving skills, you then get pushed to a quality system. That is what you need in the public education system. And these four different boards, state board, Anglo-Indian or the Christian board, ICSC and CBSE, this isn't going to work. So, all of these need to be sorted out.
Good answer there, Abhijit. And I want to add to what you just said. Even in the United States, there are schools separately called as charter schools, which cater to really talented kids. Even in the public school system, there is something called as gifted and talented education, GATE, which allows which goes and picks the students who are exceptionally talented and gives them extra courses, extra education. Sometimes the class will be studying like in grade 2, these kids will be learning grade 4 math, grade 5 social studies, and things like that. In fact, these kids are also taken to concerts, classical music concerts, because it is believed in the Western society that listening to Western classical music will enhance your STEM skills, that is science, technology, engineering, and math. We knew that from long way ago. If you listen to any classical music concert in India, the kind of mathematical permutations and combinations that they conjure when they do swara alapana is just out of the world. And you have to remember that everything is done from rote, from memory. They don't have a metronome to tell them this is the beat. Everything is done rendered from memory. Amazing skills that people had in India. I hope that the interest in Carnatic music comes back up. I'm sorry, I'm digressing. Let's go to the next question. Ayush Singh wants to know, they want to investigate 91-year-old Lata Mangeshkar for a tweet. But if some 21-year-old is investigated for a toolkit, why is that a problem?
I think the problem is that Lata Mangeshkar wasn't arrested, but Disha was. Right. I also have huge issues with this arrest. I found the Lata Mangeshkar investigation, Lata Mangeshkar and Sachin Tendulkar investigation, to be ridiculous. But I also have serious issues about this, because the actual people that you need to be arresting for the violence, the people who actually perpetrated the violence, you haven't really arrested completely. Number one. and you're too scared to arrest them. So you're going in for soft targets. Number two, you need to have, I know we have intelligence, like the foreign minister said, but we don't have, but intelligence does not equal evidence. Okay, you need to have evidence. There is a lot of forensic evidence you can collect, and it says a lot about our police how backwards we are in forensic evidence collection. I've seen the way police in Australia and America work, and it's truly a sight to behold. And the main reason there is because there is pressure on them to solve cases. They do the investigation before the arrest and things like that. In India, we don't. There's a whole heap of problems coming together. Not to say that the liberals aren't being totally hypocritical on this, right? Uh, but it is what it is.
The next question is from Anirudh. Does the Indian Army's military exercise pave way for the deployment of Indian soldiers in key Saudi establishment? Will KSA ask for Muslim Indian soldiers to man their holy cities?
No and no. And I'll tell you why. The Saudis are actually going on a major Saudification drive. They've depended on Pakistani mercenaries for too long. They realize how undependable they are. And they are basically doing what the UAE did. Once upon a time, the UAE military had, especially the Air Force, was largely Pakistani. Then they set up a world-class airline. Now they have two world-class airlines, Emirates and Etihad. I hate Emirates. I love Etihad. I don't know why Emirates is considered a world-class airline, but their business class is the absolute worst you can ever travel in. It's basically cattle class. But anyway, irrespective, they set up the infrastructure and things like that, huge airlines, so that even if 10% of the workforce and 10% of the pilot force were local Emiratis, it would still be a massive talent pool for their air force. So, it was like how your space program always goes with your ballistic missile program. It's those easy things that you can do. I think Saudi Arabia is going the exact same way. So, no, they're actually, and I know this for a fact, they are not looking for mercenaries at all. They are looking for a homegrown Saudi defense. And they basically want to reduce that external dependency significantly.
Thank you for that. Ridhiman Sri Agarwal wants to know, Abhijit ji, you seem to respect late Sri Manohar Parikar ji a lot, unlike most other BJP leaders and ministers. What is the reason thereof?
Because in all my meetings with Manohar Parikar ji, he knew a lot. If he didn't know something, he would find out about it and come back and tell you the next day. There was no attempt to hide anything. Uh, and third, he was just a really, really nice human being. Okay, he was a very kind human being. He was a very helpful human being. There's almost nothing bad you can say about him. I think it tells you a lot that the only thing the opposition could find to criticize him was that when he landed on the aircraft carrier, he was wearing chappals. Outside of that, they literally couldn't find anything to criticize him about. And that tells you a lot about the caliber of the man, right? But he's not the only one in the BJP. There are several people in the BJP. The issue is I don't mention them because the moment you start mentioning them as, bright leaders, jealous people at the top will start going after them and removing them.
I think I have personally known of an instance or two about this. So let's just leave that at that. And let's take a quick look at the next question. Vasu wants to know, Abhijit, Vasu from Chennai, is China looking at the Indian Ocean route to attack us?
They're trying. They're trying, right? The problem is the Indian Ocean is a bit of an uphill struggle for them. They need to keep sending. First, they need a massive, expeditionary capabilities, and they need lots of bases. They're all very expensive. Uh, all of that has to be done, and people don't realize this. That even when you build ships can't just stay afloat indefinitely, especially military ships because they're so high performance. They need to keep coming back to port and getting serviced. There's the barnacle removal and all of that has to happen. A lot of things need to happen to military ships. The amount of technical details that go into just keeping a ship out of port for 6 months is horrendous. So the Chinese are trying. Uh, let's see. Right now, we're not seeing any of the signs that they're succeeding. They're trying for sure.
The next question is from Bimal Vaishnav. Which nation was more in a hurry to withdraw? I think PLA mission to disallow India to acquire POK and Gilgit Baltistan is accomplished now. This is person's observation. You can rebut him or agree with him. What he's saying is about the LAC disengagement.
Yeah. No, I disagree with this POK Gilgit Baltistan because the dispute is on record and the Chinese position on it is on record, and there's no change in those positions at all. As for who was in a hurry to disengage, I don't think either one was in a hurry to disengage. India made it very clear that status quo ante means status quo ante. Okay, you come back to where the position was as of March, April, May. When did the elections happen in 2014? Was it May
May,
or
20,
March?
May 2014 and then May 2019.
Right. So May 2014 is where this government took off, and that is where the position is. That includes the freedom to build infrastructure to our satisfaction on our side of the LAC, which is what this government has been doing since 2019. So it is status quo ante, and after a point, the Chinese realized there was nothing to be gained. So it wasn't a hurry or who was in a hurry to withdraw. It's more a case of a cost benefit where the Chinese just decided there was nothing more to be gained out here.
And I think I just want to touch upon one picture that was shown of Chinese tanks withdrawing. I mean, at Galwan or at any of the lines where the LAC goes through, that's all mountainous terrain. How do you think tanks can contribute? So I'm just a little intrigued about that picture. What does it even signify?
See, remember tanks. We use tanks in our battles in the in several passes. I think it was the AMX-13, the French light tanks that we used in several battles up in Kashmir. I've seen some of them still being positioned out there. I think people have forgotten how important tanks were. This is the same thing people said in the forest as well. In Singapore, when Malaya was being invaded by the Japanese, they said, what use are tanks in forest warfare? And the Japanese showed you what tanks could do in forest warfare. So, see, what we don't realize is there are significant areas there that are navigable by tanks. Tanks are also extreme off-road vehicles. Let's not forget that. So there are a lot of places where you can have very good tank movements in Ladakh, in that entire Ladakh-Tibet continuum.
Thank you for that. And the next question is from Srinivas Ramasubramanian. If AIMSR, that is you, were to build our Navy from where it is today, what would your 7 to 10-year transformation plan look like?
Very simple. Just one class of large surface combatant, call it what you will, a frigate or a destroyer, but just one class, 24 ships, all standardized equipment, not 4 or 5 different kinds of engines and all of that. Standardize the entire surface fleet around one engine to create economies of scale and get technology transfer. Just one fleet of submarines. Diesel electric is perfectly okay. We've got our nuclear submarines, the ballistic missile submarine program that goes on a separate thing. So you need about 24 submarines. Good air independent propulsion submarines, get them, either the French one or the Swedish one or the German one, whatever. 24 of them, and ensure one of the things you have to build in there is to ensure that it nativizes, that is to say, localizes the design capability and the onward generation capability, and that the company that we contract from is legally duty bound that in the next iteration, the next class of submarines they come up with, India will be a full 50% partner, including in design. That way they will be forced to do certain things with you, right? So that is submarines and surface fleet. Once you've got this, and of course a large thing of standardized patrol boats. Right now we've got far too many different kinds of patrol boats. You need one kind of Coast Guard patrol boat and one kind of inshore, fast small boats for fast interception and things like that. You don't really need more than 4 or 5 different kinds of ships, given how multi-role things have become today, right? The last thing I would do is, I am not in favor of aircraft carriers which are for dominance, rather than which are more for sea control, rather than a surface fleet and a good submarine fleet which is for sea denial at the moment, because I think that's a more economic option. If you want sea control at a later stage, after 7 to 10 years, which is what your budget, which is what you asked me to budget for, then then after that you should be able to easily slot in an aircraft carrier or two, the way the Japanese did. They're converting their helicopter carriers into these things, but it is a new capability you can get, and with planes like the F-35 or whatever, it's also almost a sort of tag on capability that you can very easily slot in. I mean, I'm simplifying it quite a bit. Constructing an aircraft carrier and building the expertise for the aviation wing and all of that is quite painful, but it's still something that becomes easier once you've achieved the basics.
Thank you very much, Abhijit. The next question is from Vaibhav Vasishta. Do you think POK will be with India till 2024? That is, by 2024. If not, when? Or is it a never? What is your overall take on this?
I don't know
2
how old
minutes.
you are. I don't know how old you are, but not in Sree Iyer's lifetime, not in my lifetime, and definitely not in your lifetime.
Thanks for that quick reply. Rishabh wants to know, can India still cancel the S400 order as we have already made some advance payments for the same?
No, you can't and you shouldn't. You need the S400 for one basic reason, that you need to know what you're up against. The S400, like I said, is most potent when it's combined as a system of systems. The Pantsir at the lowest level, then the Thor, then the Gadfly, and then as the book, and then finally the S400. But it's a very, very solid system for you to game against, for your Mirages, for your Rafales, for your Jaguars, to get the expertise to knock things out. This is like what the Americans did, for their to test their Aegis system. They bought the Soviet SSN-22, the Sunburn missile system, to test. I mean, what better to test your anti-missile, your ship-based anti-missile system than against your most potent adversary missile? So go for it. I mean, the S-400 isn't a bad buy if you look at it from the point of view that you're training up your Air Force to deal against it.
I have a follow-up question on that, Abhijit. In a different interview, you mentioned that the S400 contains zero electronics from China. What makes you say that?
The Russian paranoia of China. The Russians, I've seen exactly how paranoid they are about all electronics. Do you know the Russian embassy in Delhi? Hmm? They are not even allowed to use electronic typewriters. They don't use computers. That is how paranoid they are. You go back, and this order was issued sometime in 2014 or 2015. You literally have to go do khata khata khata, those old typewriters that would go like this, that had those arms that would go like this, like cockroach antler kind of arms. That is what they're using right now. Remember, they are very good on cyber defense. They know what they're doing. They have ways of compromising the US, and they can do it very successfully. In fact, when they went into Syria, the Israelis were surprised. The Israelis told us that they could come up with countermeasures after about 2 weeks. But imagine if the Russians had gotten into a war with the Israelis, what would happen in those 2 weeks before they came up with the countermeasures? They would have been massacring the Israelis, right? So there's this. The Russians are very good. The problem is they come up with very good products, and they can't keep coming up with repeat iterations enough to keep up with the West. But when they come up with the products, it's very solid. And their fear of the Chinese, of any kind of Chinese rubbish, is just enormous. They do not want to touch Chinese products, especially the military will not touch Chinese.
Thank you for that. And viewers, if you want to know a little bit more about the whole game of spycraft, there is a documentary series on Netflix called Spycraft. And I encourage you to take a look at that. Whatever Abhijit is saying, you will understand even in the first episode itself why the Russians are so paranoid about security. Also, to add to your point, Abhijit, there has been claims that for the past 10 or 11 months, the Russian spy agencies have cracked into some of the most secure installations in the United States. 9 to 10 months. I mean, well into Trump's presidency, and the United States discovered it around the election time. So there is a lot that happened in 2020 in the United States, and we still don't even know the depth to which all these things have happened. So stay tuned. We'll be bringing you up to date on these things. The next question is from Vishant Nayak. Should Indian Navy wait for HAL twin engine deck based aircraft to replace aging MiG 29K, or should we go for a modified Rafale?
Uh, can I first add to the previous comment that
Please,
you
please,
made?
please go ahead. Please go ahead.
There's only one permanent. In warfare, there are no rules. There is only one rule. You never screw with Russia. Okay? If you screw with Russia, they will come screw you over so bad, you will regret it for the rest of your life. Hitler regretted it. America regretted it because if you believe the Democrat narrative, the regime changed America with Trump. And Napoleon regretted it. Okay? Never try to screw the Russians. I might not like Russian weapons and things like that, but remember, Russia's real strength has always been the Russian people, not Russian weapons. Even with crappy weapons, with crappy generals, they end up winning wars. And that is the Russian spirit. That is the greatness of Mother Russia. Okay. Never, ever, ever, whatever you do, never underestimate Russia. So to move on to the question, no, boss, no twin engine Rafale, no twin engine LCA, a single engine LCA is good enough for me. In fact, I didn't want the MiG 29. If you're going in for the LCA now, just make it a full LCA fleet. I am completely opposed to this twin engine fighter procurement, either F-18 or Rafale. I only want LCA naval fighter on all our aircraft carriers right now. Sell the MiG 29s.
Thank you. And the next question is from Ram Joshi. What's your take on vacation of Kailash Heights by the Indian Army?
There is no vacation of Kailash Heights.
Thank you. And let's go on to the next question. Sanjay Vedachalam. By the way, you should watch, Ram Joshi, you should watch the morning video that we put out on PGurus about LAC disengagement. It talks about this in detail. So just go and get the detailed answer there. Sanjay Vedachalam wants to know, could asteroid mining provide us with enough resources to industrialize, as we don't have as much resources anyway? What should India do regarding Korean reunification? Asteroid. Let's stick with asteroid. The other one, let's.
Korea. Okay. Korean reunification isn't happening. There's nothing you need to do. You can keep playing lip service to Korean reunification. Beyond that, there's nothing you should do. There's nothing you can do, basically. Right? Asteroids, it's easier to buy what you want in the open market here. It's much more expensive going mining asteroids. I mean, I've not done a cost benefit on this, but I can tell you the amount that satellite payloads cost today and getting it back, re-entry, putting in space is expensive, but bringing that same load back onto Earth, plus putting the mining equipment out there, best of luck to you, boss. No.
Pat Shaker wants to know, Abhijit sir, some experts have suggested that we should have used the South Bank Heights we occupied as bargaining chip for Dipsang and other areas instead of vacating them. What are your views?
Look, it's a mutual vacation. And we're going back to November 2019. So, and as far as the South Bank, and by South Bank, I think you're talking about Spangur, because we're not occupying. It's a continuum. Spangur is a continuum, not southerly continuum of Pangong in a sense. At least the valley, the southern valley out there. I'm not seeing us vacating the heights as of yet. On the north bank, the Chinese have a few tents left. 80% of them have been dismantled, but about 20% are left. All our positions on the heights in Spangur are intact. We have not seen any withdrawal so far. If they're withdrawn, it will be mutual to where we were in November 2019. That's about it.
Thank you for that. Mandar Deshmukh wants to know, after disengagement, will India again start patrolling till finger 8?
No, no. First, I want to know what your definition of finger eight is, because what people claim is finger eight. You know, the Indian Army has this very strange custom that they don't name according to geographic convention. It's just their convention of naming finger eight. The thing is, what General Panag and Co have labeled finger eight as per geographical convention, as per cartographical convention, and depending on your point of view, is either finger five and finger six. Finger six, Sirjap, is where the past the Sirjap plain is where the Chinese have a radar and naval station built sometime in 2004 or 2006. I forget now. So, are we able to patrol? I don't know about patrolling yet, because remember, patrols do not connote control. But given how much infrastructure, temporary albeit, infrastructure I've seen between finger six, what General Panag and Co call finger eight, to finger four, it should be easy for you to patrol, yes. Will we patrol? Maybe not.
Animesh Tiwari wants to know, do you have any idea about ISRO's postponed launching of ELINSAT, ELINSAT? Has it been cancelled due to US government pressure?
Sorry, can I just take a quick break? I have.
Sure. Go ahead, and I will wait for you. Come back. Yep. So, viewers, what I was going to do was to try and engage with you on some of the benefits of becoming a member. Abhijit needs to answer the door for somebody's at his door. And while he comes back, we can just talk a little bit more about membership benefits. Now, if you look at this screen, you are seeing two JavaScripts running simultaneously. One is the wall hanging where there is a message going on about my new book, National Herald Frauds. And the other one is the new sticker that is running at the bottom. If you look at it, the new sticker is running all the time. Both these are actually made using JavaScript. And things on how, if you want to do your own YouTube channel, you need to come to grips with all these things, because you need to be able to differentiate yourself from the rest of the competition. And one way to do that is to give people compelling graphics, and we will help you with that. If you become a member, we'll have a member section, and you'll need to learn a bit of programming, especially HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And if you know these things, if you understand how this is done, by the way, it is not that hard. If you know some basic programming, these things are very easy to catch on to. If you know these things, then you can easily start doing your own things. And we want to encourage people to be dependent on themselves. These days, the more things you can handle on your own, the more successful you are going to be in life, because it's a multi-personality, multi-talented set that is going to get you to the next level. Most people tend to be good in silos, and in this day and age, it's my opinion that it might not be good enough for you to succeed. So these are all, again, suggestions. It's 119 rupees a month. That is the basic kit. There are higher slabs, obviously, and these things give you even more benefits. For example, we come out with a lot of trinkets, coffee mugs. We are going to have pens, t-shirts and keychains and things like that. You can get a special price on those things. We're also going to have a set of my books that will be sent to you, autographed by me. That would be a book collection. As you know, I've already got about 9 books done, and now more books are in the pipeline. So this is going to be something that is going to be there for a long time. I really hope that young India starts inculcating the habit of reading, because if you read a book, the whole world you can see through that book. That is the advantage of doing it. Even though you might say, yes, I have Twitter, I have Reddit, I have YouTube, I can see whatever I want to, wherever I want to in the whole world. There is something more romantic, there is something more in depth that a book gives you that most of these things cannot, because everybody is trying to keep you hooked with something or the other, and tends to be sensational more than anything else. So the pricing for those of you who are not in India but in, like, say for example, United States, is $3.99 a month. And you don't do the math, USD conversion, and say how come India is so cheap and how come US is so expensive. This pricing is not something that I did, it was something that Google has done. And this tells you that the rupee is undervalued by a lot. Google doesn't think that the rupee should be at 75 rupees to a dollar. You do the math. If $399 is equal to 119 rupees, that is $4 is equal to 119 rupees. That means the Google thinks that the rupee should be at 30 rupees to a dollar. Abhijit is back, so we'll continue our Q&A session. Abhijit, thanks for coming back. And here's the next question.
Thank you. And sorry, I'll have to go again for about a minute or so because there's a house emergency happening.
No problem, no problem. Just let me know and I'll continue with my other stuff. Animesh Tiwari wants to know, do you have any idea about ISRO's postponed launching of AlienSat? Has it been cancelled due to US government pressure?
No, I have no information about this.
Okay, let's go on to the next question. Pavan Immadisetti wants to know, since we are leaning towards American defense purchases for good amount of our needs, how can India protect itself from arm twisting tactics of USA in difficult times?
Look, the point here is, can you realistically protect yourself from any kind of arm twisting ever? Right now, are you able to protect yourself from arm twisting? How? Okay, this is, you can't have a permanent guarantee for everything, boss. You're asking me a question saying, should I get married now because I may get divorced 20 years down the line? That's not the way things work.
Good repartee. Aditya Prakash wants to know. Oh, I'm sorry. One second. Prabhat Upadhyay wants to know, what do you think of Blinken now not designating Yemen Houthis as terrorists? And they went and bombed a civilian plane, by the way.
So this is one of several pinpricks that they're using against Saudi Arabia, mostly to punish them for screwing over Barack Obama in a sense, right? Let's see. I think it's fairly short-sighted. Blinken is one of those hawks that I've always been uncomfortable about. Let's see. I'm not... let's wait and watch. This is going to come back to bite them. This is both appeasing Iran and screwing the Saudis over. The Iranians are going to take their pound of flesh. And just wait and watch. This hasn't played out yet. It's too early to comment on how this is going to play out, except that it is a snub.
Aditya Prakash wants to know, some analysts have said that we have accepted the 1959 claim line of China as proposed by Zhou and Lai as things stand. What is your view? 1959.
No, we absolutely have not. We have not accepted it in private. We have not accepted it in public. It is our definition remains quite different. The problem is we haven't given any thought to where the border should be, which is highly problematic. And that mostly has to do with the fact that India is not willing to cede any land publicly. It's also not willing to cede any land privately. And the Chinese aren't really looking for a solution as either. So for them, the solution for the Chinese to solve this problem requires India to completely forswear any relationship with any other country.
Kikeri Venkatesh Srinivas wants to know how much the Galwan clash played in the minds of the Chinese to disengage. Any negotiation involves a give and take scenario. what might have India negotiated with for LAC disengagement?
Sorry, could you repeat that? What?
Yeah, I'll repeat that question. Kikeri Venkatesh Srinivas wants to know how much the Galwan clash played in the minds of the Chinese to disengage. Any negotiation involves a give and take scenario. What might have India negotiated with for LAC disengagement?
Look, I don't know what we may have negotiated with, except that I can tell you what is, which is status quo ante as of November 2019. And no, Galwan might have been somewhere at the back of their mind, but definitely nothing decisive. Sree, quickly, I have to emergency
Yeah,
playing up.
yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead. That's fine. Go ahead, and we'll catch up with you again in a minute. So, viewers, so we are back with our membership drive, and one of the reasons why we did this membership drive is also that there is an easy way for you. This is an easy way for you to donate to our cause if you happen to be living in India. For some reason, we are a US based company, PGurus.com, and we wanted to be able to have the flexibility of getting the money in dollars because all our expenses, for the most part, are in dollars. And this dollar rupee exchange, not everybody handles it. YouTube does. There's a bit of a overhead that is involved. In fact, if you send us 119 rupees, only 70% of that makes it over, and I would say about $1 comes to us, 73 rupees or something like that, and the rest is taken by Google as commission. But I don't begrudge that because Google is providing us with their servers. There are multiple servers at play here when this program is going live. They're making sure that all these servers are feeding the same content that you are seeing. You could be in India, you could be in Singapore, you could be in the United States, you could be anywhere on the world, and you would be seeing that content being served up. So Google is expending a lot of energy in trying to give all these things for free. I don't pay YouTube any money for running this channel, and therefore it's one way of us also thanking YouTube for the service that they are doing. And I can tell you, of all the social media platforms, YouTube has been very fair. They don't needlessly go and shadow ban anyone. At least in my opinion, they have not. Although I have some grudges about some videos being taken down, but that's okay. That is life. You are not going to get everything your way. And we have Abhijit back, but I just want you to consider becoming a member. Thank you very much. And here is the next question, Abhijit. Apurva Sharma wants to know, do you think a 2024 Mike Pompeo presidential run could materialize? And if it does, would he then go on to win?
A Mike Pompeo presidential run. No and no. He will not win, and I don't think he's a team player. If you're looking at a Trumpist needs to be a disruptionist. So no, I don't think he will run, and I don't think he'll win, even though he will have Trump's support and goodwill, which is a large part of the Republican base.
And any ideas on who you think might be running from the Republican side for 2024? This can be revisited as time goes along. But who do you think you would vote for if a Republican said this is my candidate for president?
It's too early. I mean, who would have thought even 1 year back that Joe Biden would be running for president, or that he would have won, or that Kamala auntie would get it? So no, there's all the usual names, Ted Cruz, and some people even say Josh Hawley and things like that. I'm not so convinced. I half suspect that President Trump might just try another time. On the other hand, I personally think that it will be some backseat candidate who will suddenly rise to prominence, but it'll have to be a disruptionist.
In fact, Joe Biden is already being considered as a backseat candidate, and with Barack Obama, turning the levers at the back. If you look at all the, appointments, for example, Ilhan Omar, has got a way higher profile than what she usually would deserve. I'm meaning like she's in her second or third term as a congresswoman, and nothing there to write home about in terms of being an exemplary conduct or anything like that. This lady has been, if anything, the other side. You can perhaps relate to our viewers what happened when your friend was cut off rudely by her during the deposition on Kashmir.
Yeah, well, look, he's got to throw something. So far, he's given absolutely nothing to the uh, uh, wokes and the far left of the party. He has to throw them some tidbits that will make them shut up. But I suspect that Ilhan Omar, like Meena Harris, is going to cause a whole load of headaches for the Americans. With Meena Harris, they can easily, push it away and say, "Look, boss, we don't discuss uh, uh, your relatives with the problems that your relatives give us. So please don't discuss what our relatives, the problems our relatives give you at cabinet meetings. They're not a part of government." They can't do that with Ilhan. Ilhan is a part of government. They can kind of ignore it some the way the Trump administration ignored Jaishankar refusing to meet Pramila Jayapal. But outside of that, I don't think so.
Srivatsan Prabhakaran wants to know, should India invest in riot controlling technology?
You know, you I've heard this question so often. What is riot controlling technology? Tell me this.
Is there something that the Israelis use? Is that what they probably mean?
There's no such thing as riot control technology. It's getting in before the crowd. It's using intelligence and crowd you, gauging where a crowd gathers, preventing it from gathering, dispersing a gathering when it becomes 10 men or before it becomes 10 men or women or whatever, 10 persons. And that's it. You know, stop thinking. This is such a Nehruvian way of thinking. Technology is not going to solve your human problems. Be it Shaheen Bagh, be it 26 January, your problems are human problems. You know, Nehru used to call dams the temples of modern India. They were not. They were complete disasters. Stop thinking of technology solutions to your problems. Technology can't make a moron look good.
Komanduru Chakravarti Iyengar wants to know, saying about bases, does China have the kind of money to maintain defense ports with no commercial value in the region? Hambantota, maybe?
They don't. Well, uh, they do, but then they'll go the USSR way ultimately. See, that's the point. Uh, and everything is that Xi Jinping simply does not understand cost benefit analysis. I think Xi Jinping is making all the mistakes that the USSR made, which is particularly surprising because one thing the Chinese Communist Party should have taught him very, very clearly was, and this was sort of traumatized the Chinese communist leadership. It traumatized Deng Xiaoping to the point that he had it ingrained in every single CCP leader. Do not do what the USSR did. Do not overspend like this. He is not getting it. So, like I said, there's enough money to last you about another 20, 30 years of profligate spending. But at some point, the money is going to run out.
Next question from Chaksh Kochar. Why is India afraid of doing a salami slicing tactic in POK and Gilgit Baltistan?
You just can't. There's nuclear deterrence at play. You can't.
Well, if that was the case, then why did India dare and go and attack Balakot? Was that not in play then?
There's very different from attacking and taking.
Okay, so occupation can be hazardous, is what you're saying.
Correct. So there were the four thresholds I think we spoke about. Pakistan's four thresholds: economic, spatial, uh, uh, naval, and so loss of ground, loss of military, uh, uh, economic loss, and one more. I keep forgetting the fourth thing. So as long as you find the right point, it's okay. Uh, the problem with salami slicing, in addition to nuclear weapons, because Kashmir is so central to them, their room for maneuver in Kashmir. In the desert, maybe you can get away with it. In Kashmir, you can't get away with it for a variety of reasons. Number one is taking land there is horrible. Okay, it's uphill, downhill, and things like that. You really don't want that. You're kind of imposing a Kargil on your own troops. What they did to their troops, you impose on your own troops. You don't want that. Unless you're willing to lose about 2,000 soldiers for every square inch of territory that you're taking. I don't think we're like that. They treat their soldiers very badly. I don't think we should treat our soldiers the way they treat their soldiers. And number two, their nuclear threshold in Kashmir is something we've not really tested.
Thank you. And the next question is from Arindam Majumdar. What are your thoughts on global green fascism?
Global green fascism. What is that?
Well, I think we have to parse a little bit about what they are saying. Fascism is sort of like diktat, and they are saying thou shall be green and thou shall not ask questions. I mean,
But
India.
there's so many levels at it. See, one is green terrorists. You have those, like the Greenpeace and things like that. People associated with Greenpeace and things like that. The second is, this whole sort of climate dogma that has taken hold of Western governments, where everything has to be green and so on and so forth. What do I think of it? Look, in economic terms, do I think we should be catapulting towards greener sources of energy? Yes, because it creates a whole new industry for you to enter and utilize and get a first mover's advantage. We're too late in it now, but anyway, we probably still can do a lot. So I think that's good. The problem here is Indian governments always negotiate with one hand tied to their back because they constantly have to do failure compensation. If they commit to standards and things like that, they don't know if the state governments, etc., 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 will meet those targets. And then the consequences will be too great, which is why you see a lot of diffidence. I
Nina, I'm
personally
sorry, go ahead.
separate green evangelism, which is what Western governments do, with green fascism, which is what a lot of folks in Western societies do.
Thank you for that. And the next question is from Ninad Bhatt. What should be the next point of disengagement after Pangong Lake?
After Pangong, you're mostly disengaged. Eyeball to eyeball to hai nahi zyada tumhara. Pangong was the main issue that is resolved. Galwan and things you've always had, even if you go back to November 2019 positions, you will still be fairly eyeball to eyeball. So I'm not seeing where else you can achieve significant disengagement.
Swaminathan R wants to know how capable is Indian Army of surprising PLA to capture buffer zone till finger 8 with Chinese withdrawal of tanks?
Boss, please stop asking me these questions like salami, slicing, capturing territory. Honestly, it's so ridiculous. I mean, go join the Pakistan army. This is the way Pakistani generals think. I'm getting tired of these questions now. You can't do it. Okay, you are considered responsible. If you want to lose that entire thing of responsibility, go ahead, but also consider the nuclear angle here. Remember, the Chinese are far happier to lose troops, and the Pakistanis are far happier to lose troops than you are. Have you even considered what the terrain there is like? I just don't get this. What is your obsession with military conquest, yaar? Get over this thing that land is somehow, that your pride is linked to land.
Next question from
And Sree,
Nitish.
please don't read out any more questions like salami slicing and can we take China and things like that. You know, if you want to live in a make-believe Game of Thrones world in some alternate universe, in Star Trek universe or Star Wars universe, be my guest. But you know, honestly, these questions are really, really. I mean, they really stretch credulity. It's like asking me what
Understood.
I think about
Understood.
the Illuminati conspiracy and the conspiracy of the Elders of Zion.
Here's a different question from CVS Giri. Can you throw some light on the current status of SSN/SSBN construction?
Yes, so you've got two more SSB, well, our SSN, SSBN. We only have SSBN, nuclear ballistic missile submarines. So Arihant was your first. Arihant is already out. It was actually put out on patrol during the China thing. We saw it. We never reported about it because it's a bit sensitive. We saw it leave port even before it had been commissioned. And your third SSBN, which will be an Arighat follow on, we haven't seen. The images that we have aren't high resolution enough to see how many missile ports and things like that they have. But that should be out sometime in about next year or the year after next. I don't know how much COVID has affected the construction schedule. So you'll have all those submarines out. You will have three. And then reportedly, there's a plan to build bigger SSBNs. I don't know. I don't think we're going in for SSNs right now. The focus is mainly on getting our second strike capability in order, which means SSBNs. Sorry, jargon, which is to mean ballistic missile submarines and not to use nuclear submarines as a tool of war fighting as yet. The two war fighting nuclear submarines we have, which are the two Akula improved Akula class. Well, one plus did I don't know, did we get one more? I forget now. There was talk of getting the second one, but the Akula can't be used in war. That's very clear. It's a training submarine. It's we can't use it for hostilities. We can use it for intelligence gathering.
Next question is from Ishank Sagar. Do you remember the leak in Scorpion that happened a few years ago? Isn't Scorpion program already compromised?
No, there were significant technical details that did get leaked, yes. But remember, the leak wasn't big enough. It caused some damage, but not enough damage to compromise the program. No. You're talking about the Australian leak quite some time back. But, well, technical documents meant for the Australians quite some time back, or was it the Malaysians? I forget now. But it's bad, but it's not too bad. Don't worry about it too much.
Krishna Ravishankar wants to know your views on the first India Saudi Arabia military exercise.
Excellent. Bring on more of it. It might not achieve much in military terms, but it's fantastic for sending a chill down Pakistan's spine.
Next question, Venkatakrishnan Ramakrishnan wants to know, can we attribute the statement of Amit Shah in Parliament regarding Gilgit-Baltistan to the current Chinese incursion given their interest in CPEC Gwadar project?
Sorry, could you repeat?
Well, what he's asking is, did the statement that Amit Shah made in the Parliament about, Gilgit-Baltistan, I think what he said was, we will die, but we will get back Aksai Chin or something like that. Some word to that effect. And so the viewer wants to know if that was the reason why all this happened after that.
Like I said, look, it's not happening in my lifetime, boss. This is like Jai Mahishmati in those Bahubali series. You want to believe Bahubali is real life, congratulations to you, I don't. देख भाई, मेरे लाइफ टाइम में वो वापस आने वाला नहीं है. वरपोरे दिल्ले আসবে না, চলবে না, কিচ্ছু হবে না. I've said it in Bengali, I've said it in English, I've said it in Tamil. What other language do you want me to say it in?
Next question is from Smriti Dubey. Do you know about Assam partition problem? Just like CAA, some part of our country is in Bangladesh and Bengal is in there want to get together with India. They have tried many times with the UPA. Where do things stand? Do you have any idea about this?
I didn't understand the question.
Oh, I think I'll explain to you a little bit more because I have some experience with this. See, there are areas in Bangladesh today which have a slightly higher number of Hindus, and they feel like there is persecution galore in Bangladesh also. And these people, like I'll give you an example. There's a place called Chittagong, Cox Bazar. That area is has a fairly high footprint of Hindus, and they
Mm.
were wondering if we want to
Um,
secede from Bangladesh,
Sorry,
can we?
one
Yeah,
second. One
yeah.
second. This is acting up again. I'm sorry. There's a medical emergency at home. I'm really,
Sure,
really
sure,
sorry to our viewers.
sure. Okay, so you want to? Okay,
Hello.
he's having to deal with some of his pets, and we will be back soon. But viewers, this is about an hour now into the program. I still have a lot of questions coming from you. In case we are not able to take your questions, I would request you to resubmit them in the next episode. We are just deluged with questions. Many of them are good. And sometimes, if we skip a question, it is because it has already been answered previously. So please don't mind about that. But the quality of questions I'm seeing is just mind blowing. You are a very curious lot. You want to know. And what we have is an expert, a specialist who is able to give you very accurate information, in my opinion, on all the three facets of the Indian Army: the armed forces, the army, the air force, and the navy. So there's a lot of gyan to be gained from watching these videos. And as always, I told you, please help us also increase our subscriber count. What happens is when we have more subscribers, it makes us more attractive for subject matter experts to come spend their time with us, and thereby, that you will be helping, and it will also help us to bring you even more such accomplished individuals as for example, Abhijit Iyer Mitra. So there is an ongoing effort. Somebody is always doing it. Abhijit is back. Let's make good use of his time. Abhijit, thanks for coming back. I'm just going to ask you a few questions and then we'll wind this thing up. Unless you have time. I don't know. We are about an hour into the program.
I have time. I'll just have to keep running because downstairs Wali auntie has had some. Anyway, it's a medical issue, so I have to keep going helping. That's it.
Okay, understood. That's okay. I mean, it gives me break to it also gives you a break for your vocal cords. You are the one talking most of the time. And I'm pitching for very, very hard here for membership. And I see every time I pitch, the number of watches goes down and then it instantly comes back when you are back on. Here we go. Next question. Srinivas Ramasubramanian, how concerned are you about the Siliguri corridor?
There's nothing about the Siliguri corridor we can't deal with if we turn to air power. The problem of the Siliguri corridor being a sort of Chinese invasion highway only gets exacerbated when you think in 1950s, 1960s, 1970s ground-centric military view. ठीक है ना? If you're making it air-centric, you can be fairly assured that as far as your forces can last out, there is going to be no particular ground takeover, but there'll be no slicing of the chicken's neck. Let me put it that way. And sorry, just to quickly answer the Chittagong question before, I'm sorry, I am not aware of that issue. So I don't want to talk about things I don't know about.
Understood. Suresh Kumar wants to know, do you think India should focus more on the non-aligned movement now? Is there one?
Suresh Kumar, you give me your address. I am so livid right now, I will come and do very bad things to you. No non-alignment. No, 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 no. Under no circumstances non-alignment. Never non-alignment. Non-alignment is just an excuse to not do anything. No chance.
Rishabh Sharma wants to know, what should be India's response if there are US sanctions against India for its procurement of S-400? Also, what will then be the state of India-US cooperation on security matters?
Look, this is very simple. We got a CATSA waiver on the S-400 under Trump uh, when it was first announced. Uh, if they now put sanctions on us retrospectively, I think the Americans understand very, very well that they're going to destroy any future of cooperation. And the whole, whatever changes that have happened in Indian foreign policy, albeit very few, but whatever changes that have happened in Indian defense and foreign policy over the last decade or so will be reversed. And the non-alignment lobby, God, what perfect alignment of questions, that non-alignment lobby, do not buy arms from America, will come back with so much force. They will literally screw the relationship up. I will personally be extremely surprised if CATSA is imposed on us. I think the Americans, all the people that I've been speaking to in DC, are quite convinced that it is not going to happen. The threat will be raised every now and then, but their own take on this is it will be catastrophic. My take on it is it will be catastrophic. Biden could do it just to spite us and to see to it if his Chinese puppet masters have anything to do with it. But personally, I don't think it's going to happen, shorn of conspiracy theories.
Veer Swami wants to know why do you think Russia considers Putin as a heroic hero?
Huh? Why does?
Okay, I think the question should be reworded. I had to read it verbatim and I was editing it as I was saying it. So, is Putin a hero for Russia and why?
Yes, emphatically yes. And I'll tell you why. At some point, he was willing to accept that he is the problem between Russian rapprochement and the West. And he gave up the presidency to Medvedev to see if he was the problem and if Medvedev could fix it. And the way the Americans screwed Medvedev over in Libya, essentially using a Russian vote to allow humanitarian intervention to convert it into a regime change intervention, meant that he realized that Medvedev and other people like him were too gullible. And mind you, this has a very deep root in Russian history. Medvedev wasn't the first useful idiot. Okay, what Medvedev did in Libya wasn't the first useful idiot thing that a Russian ruler has done. You had Gorbachev before him, who fell for Western propaganda, and that led to the collapse of the Soviet Union. You had Catherine's husband, was it Tsar Peter or Tsar Paul? I forget now, who basically, after his mother, Tsaritsa Elisaveta, had conquered Germany, she had crushed Prussia. They were literally knocking down Frederick the Great's doors. They would have captured him and probably killed him or taken him off to Moscow in chains. Frederick the Great, we're talking about. Great supposed military genius. They defeated him. Tsarina Elizaveta dies. Tsar Peter or Paul, I forget. I keep confusing Peter and Paul. I'm sorry. All these names sound the same to me. And he's such a great fan of Frederick. He says, I'm gifting you back all your land. And we are together going to now wage war on Denmark. And Denmark was Russia's ally at this point. So he turned with the enemy he had defeated, gave him back everything, gave him additional land, and then used him to wage war against his own ally. This is the kind of jackasses Russia has been ruled by. So understand where Putin's paranoia comes from. There's a deep, deep, deep historical memory of it. Okay. Unlike India, where we never learn from our history, the Russians have a great sense of their history. They learn from it. So he was willing to give Medvedev. And once he saw Medvedev was in the same mold as Tsar Peter and was it Tsar Paul? Okay, Peter or Paul. We'll just call it Tsar Peter and Paul. So in the same mold as Tsar Peter and Paul and Tsar Gorbachev or Commissar Gorbachev, he knew that he was the last man standing. My only complaint with him is he's too security focused and not economic focused. So he's repeating some of the mistakes of the USSR. But I think when all considered, the history of Russia is written, Putin will go down as one of the great, great, great heroes of Russia, the same as, the Tsar Peter the Great, or Tsar Alexander, or Stalin. And yes, Stalin is a hero. It required Stalin to save Russia from the Germans. So, I mean, think what you will of him, and he was Georgian, he wasn't Russian, but still, different matter. The Romanovs weren't Russian either; they were entirely German. So that's fine. As long as Russia has a savior, Putin will go down as one of the great saviors of Russia.
Now, Romanovs, just for viewers, were the people who were the Tsar family was Romanovs. That's what Abhijit was referring to. Abhijit, one question for you. Russia, today, as I understand it, most of the people close to Putin, all their foreign accounts have been frozen by the United States and the West, isn't it? Is that still in vogue?
There's lots of
Okay.
sanctions against Putin and his inner clique. And there's a
So,
reason he's cultivated that inner clique. It's because he considers foreign um, oligarchs with foreign interests and foreign government ties, people like Boris Berezovsky and things like that, to be tools of the West, to be George Soros agents and things like that, which they quite possibly are. Uh, and they have this dangerous ability to conflate their personal interests with Russia's interests, which has never served Russia well. So, yes, there are those sanctions on him. So he's created an inner clique of oligarchs, of crony capitalists. But from his point of view, that's absolutely essential to protect Russia, because he's seen how open markets and unchecked capitalism can be used to topple governments, like you've seen Apple and whatever Apple, Google, all of them come together in coordinated class action and go against Parler and things like that,
yes,
and
actually,
ban Trump.
you're absolutely right. Parler is still not up. Even today, Parler is still down. They have been trying to bring up their platform using Russian servers. Something somewhere has run into a snag. It is still not up. So we will let you know when that comes up, because we also stream live on. I think we stream live on Parler. Anyway, we put videos on Parler. They've been very, very, very well received. Next question for you. If you're getting tired, let me know, because there's just going on and on. But I'm trying to give you questions that are different from what the LAC and disengagement are. Here is a dog lover's question. Divyanshu Raj wants to know, Abhijit, what is your dog's name?
I have two dogs. My boy is called Advait, my girl is called Aparajita. And
Thank
they're
you.
both desis. Please adopt, don't shop.
Kaushik Dinak wants to know, does it make sense for India still not to accept China money as investment? After all, money is money.
Accept money. China was built on American money, and China is the biggest threat to America. Accept money. Just don't get made fools of. Take their money, build up your infrastructure. If you build up, I mean, say, come up with a ridiculous project, build maglev trains from, uh, come up with a magnetic levitation train project on the Golden Quadrilateral or whatever it's called, right? Delhi to Bombay, Bombay to Bangalore, Bangalore to Madras, Madras to Calcutta, and Calcutta to Lucknow, Lucknow to Delhi. Okay. Say the Chinese come, build to operate. Obviously, we know it's going to bankrupt and fail, because given China's propensity, like we discussed in the Xi Jinping question, it's bound to fail. What are they going to do? Are they going to dismantle it and take it? It's built to operate. It's not built to dismantle. There's no dismantle clause in there. After that, it's yours. Nationalize it and do what you want. But be smart about it.
Thank you. Balaji wants to know, we are 1 minute 30, 1 hour 13 minutes. We'll do another 10-15 minutes and then we'll wind up. I feel like I'm, imposing your time, a lot of requirements on your time. Balaji wants to know, why is this government not concentrating on economy? They seem to be jumping from one slogan to another following Indira Gandhi's stack, but no visible results on the ground. I think the middle class feels that way. I don't think the lower class feels that way. That is my opinion. Please let me know your thoughts.
Absolutely. I don't think the working classes and the lower classes feel it because they are seeing governmental delivery. They're seeing toilets, they're seeing electricity and things like that. But when the middle class feel that, it's particularly bad because it means nothing much has been done for the middle class, which is problematic. So, yeah, I do. From a purely middle class wealth creator angle, I do see them just jumping from slogan to slogans. There are actions, no doubt, but they're too few and far between and sometimes quite muddled.
Yeah, that thing about leave travel allowance, that was more confusing than anything else. And I was like, my God, do we even have to have something like that? Somebody spent hours and hours doing that.
I
Okay,
can
next
tell you
question.
my mom is quite upset with this senior citizens not having to pay a tax thing because it's actually a very narrow bracket. You have to have the account in the same, the payment from the same. She was explaining it to me, and I'm sorry, I'm not a finance guy, so I didn't get what it meant. But it has to be same account. You can't do multiple accounts and things like that, and only then you don't have to file a tax return. And whatever savings she makes gets wiped out by inflation anyway, apparently. So she's not at all happy about it because she thinks that's also a slogan and it's eyewash. I
I,
frankly don't understand it. I don't get into, if you notice, I don't talk about sports, I don't talk about finance. uh, and when I don't know about Chittagong, I tell you I don't know about it because I don't like talking about things I don't know about.
so the next question is Praveen S. Where do we stand on mechanizing our army? Drones, AI, army robots, etc.
Again, you invest in human beings, not in platforms. Your army is not at a stage where you can absorb that technology, and stop looking at technology as a substitute for human investment. Okay, you need to cut down the size of your army to a quarter of what it is, quarter or third of what it is, double treble their salaries, invest in proper guns for them, invest in proper armor for them and things like that, invest in basic systems for the soldier, invest in problem solving for the soldier, invest in training for the soldier, live firing for the soldier, etc., etc., etc. And remember, drones and mechanization and things like that are the tip of the iceberg. It's actually the tip of a human iceberg where you have a huge amount. Most of your assets are dedicated to intelligence and not to the actual platform. The platform just performs the coup de grace. So when you don't have the rest of the pyramid, think of it this way: when you're talking about drones and things like that for the army, you're literally talking about constructing the pyramid of Giza with just the top stone dangling in the air, with none of the rest, the top 25 feet dangling in the air, with none of the remaining 400 feet at the bottom existing.
Very, very amazing description. Dipanshu Sharma wants to know, can we have a question on biggest threat to India, Aman Exercise 2021? How could beggar Pakistan afford it?
Pakistan devotes an unusual amount of money to the military. Okay. They're also very smart with the way they spend. So they can afford it. They can absolutely afford it.
Rahul Prabhakaran wants to know, how should India approach Iran in the Biden administration?
There's no change in our attitude to Iran. Because remember, the closer Iran gets to the West, the more they tend to ignore us. For the last 4 or 5 years, we've been ignoring them. So it's only mutual that they're going to ignore us even more. And that's fine. We've gotten nothing out of Iran we've got nothing worthwhile out of Iran for a very long time. Why even care? Treat them the way you would uh, Burkina Faso, or treat them the way you would Cuba. Just ignore. Not worth your time.
Next question is from Sivaji. what is your take on LCA is quite well known. What is your view on the helicopter ALH LCH of HAL?
I quite like the ALH-LCH, but you need to be inducting it in large numbers. ठीक है? Keep the Apache, get rid of your Mi-24s, and induct about 120, 130, maybe 200 LC H's for use all across. You need to be giving it to the paramilitaries as well, especially for the fight against Naxals and things like that. You need to be using it for a whole range of operations, and you need a lot more of these. The army needs, in my estimation, at least about 200 of these. I think for your heavy anti-tank roles in combat where you need to break a column and things like that, the Apaches are great. For all other roles in killing off light-skinned vehicle and things like that, or taking on infantry formations and so on and so forth, I think it's a fairly competent helicopter. Use it, especially in high altitude. Use it.
Akshay Kadam wants to know how good is India's capability in indigenizing infantry department?
Confused. There are too many RFIs coming out. There are too many new types of small arms being bought. Uh, you're not getting the mechanized forging capabilities, metal forging capabilities here, and that is getting very problematic. Okay, you've gotten the Russian Kalashnikov factory coming up in Amethi. There's an RFI for carbines being issued somewhere else. There's something else happening somewhere else. At some point, you need to take a strategic call on this. Make a family of weapons and single source it and indigenize it completely instead of having 50, 60, 70 different kinds of barrels, ammunition, and types in your arsenal. Okay, it all comes down to economics, boss. Standardize, 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 minimize your logistical headaches, rationalize your logistics chain.
Thank you, Abhijit. And somebody explains to me that the 19 rupees in our membership, that is 119, goes towards GST, which means essentially our membership is 100 rupees. And thanks for that clarification. So 70% of that is what comes to us. So we get around 70% or 70 rupees every time you sign up as a member. Thanks for those of you who have joined. Thank you very much. We look forward to more people joining. And this helps us to keep this thing ticking over. And Abhijit really is happy when you guys join. It was his idea that, even though it sounded a little bit, dicey, he said, no, let's try it. We have people who would like to see what happens. And at this point, we are only going to use very few programs for members only. We are going to try and give you as many programs as possible. However, in some areas, we may have to start becoming a little bit choosy. For example, at some point we might say we will only be able to entertain members' questions. At this time we are not. We're just taking them first come, first served, and also trying to not repeat questions. Other than that, we are trying to accommodate as many of your views as possible. We want this to be a knowledge platform. The Indian education system does not fill out, and in fact, world education system is not keeping up with the changes, because the changes are happening so rapidly, and this is one place where we try to keep up with the changes, keep up with the Joneses, so to speak, keep up with the Iyers, so to speak. Abhijit, next question for you.
One other thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're a member. Also, I will not be answering any more questions about taking back POK, taking back Gilded Baltistan, salami slicing, or taking back Aksai Chin. Okay? Not happening. Never again.
Yes. So here's the next question, totally different question. Rishabh Sharma wants to know, do you think Trump can win again if he runs in 2024? It is believed that the suburbanites have moved away from him. What are your thoughts?
No, I don't think he can win, but I think he should run again, just for fun, if nothing else. I'd love to see Wokes behave like lemmings and jumping off the cliffs in droves.
Here is a thought from left field, Abhijit, that something that I've been hearing. There is no, it will come as no surprise if he starts a new party. And he might start that if he thinks that he can get enough Democrats to switch sides to come over to his side. Remember, the Democrats are also feeling queasy about some of the appointments, such as Ilhan Omar and so on and so forth, because this is a known person. She tried to explain 9/11 as some people did something. That was nonsense. I mean, you know who did it, you know the ideology, you know what the idea was, accept it and then move on. That would have been a better thing to do, but she didn't choose to do that. So anyway, so one of the things that people are thinking is he might draw people from Democrats. So we'll have to wait and see. I think
See, look,
go ahead.
Ilhan Omar is a piece of trash. I mean, there's no other way of putting it. She's a nasty little piece of trash. That said, if Trump, the Democrats won't be comfortable with Trump. So if Trump breaks the Republicans, and he's got a huge support base in the Republicans who are no longer going to be willing to go back to that sort of center right stance of the Republican Party, what I suspect will happen is that the center right Republicans will align with the center left Democrats, who themselves might split because they get queasy with far left. So what you will see is a far right Trumpist party, a far left trashist party, aka Ilhan Omar party, and a new center party of Democrats and Republicans. That hasn't happened in a long time. When was the last time there was a different party? Uh,
The Whigs were
100
there
years
for a long
back?
time, but yeah,
Yeah,
100 years back. Yeah.
at least 100 years back or more.
Right, right, right.
So I'll be really surprised. It is possible. It is possible, but I don't think Democrats would ever join Trump. They would join the Rump Republican Party. They might merge and kick out the left extremists, in which case that new central party would be the dominant force for a long, long time to come.
Looking at American history in the past, there used to be something called as Tammany Hall, Tamany. It's a place in New York, and this used to be the area that used to control how American politics was conducted for, I think, close to 50 to 60 years before that dissolved. I think that kind of thing is again forming. The progressives, there are people who are in the forefront, like you see the faces of Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. But it is believed that behind all these people, the progressive czar is Barack Obama, that he is still orchestrating a lot of these moves. It is being believed, because it is also being believed that he is readying Michelle Obama to run for presidency sometime in the near future. Well, will that happen or not? We'll have to wait and see. But this is a bone of contention. Go ahead. You want to say something?
I think I can see Elizabeth Warren join a party with Mitch McConnell in it. But I can't see Mitch McConnell join a party where Michelle Obama makes a run for president. So see, it's a very complex permutation combination, because unlike Indian politics, American politics, individuals are so powerful in their own right. They have their own little fiefdoms and things like that. It's almost atomic microbalancing.
No, you're
You have
absolutely
to
right. See,
allow
what
it
happened?
depends at what point of time the chips fall, and then you'll know how they're going to fall.
Yes. In fact, I pick on what you just said, and I'll add to that. Mitch McConnell voted against impeaching Trump, and then he gives a dressing down to Trump, saying that whatever you have done is criminal. And then he says, what is this? Monkey balancing? Which are the two sides here? We have to remember his wife is Elaine Chao, who used to manage to be in just about every Republican administration. She was a secretary. Amazing luck, I would say.
She
And
quit the Trump cabinet on the day of the Capitol Hill riots in protest.
of course, she will do
I personally think Trump will go after Mitch McConnell, but he will first. I think his first target is going to be the New York Republicans and Liz Cheney. And after he goes after them, I think Liz Cheney will be target number one. He will consolidate slowly, and then, mark my words, he will go after Mitch McConnell.
Well, like I said, there could be some, furious sampling going on with the Trump group, trying to figure out if he were to go out and start his own party, how many Democrats is that party going to draw? If that is,
Zero.
Well, if it is
Zero.
zero, then I don't think he'll start that party. There must be some numbers. I mean, I'm just telling you, okay? So not every.
He'll draw Republican legislators, and he will draw a large northern white, as an ethnically white, blue collar workforce with him that normally votes Democrat.
Well, yeah, like that's the blue wall you're talking about. Michigan, Wisconsin,
Yeah.
that area. That actually was decisive. In fact, it voted against Trump, or at least that's what we are led to believe. Lot more things going to come. February 19th, there's a case in
But it
Supreme
wasn't
Court.
decisive. The voter margins were ridiculously low. The victory margins were nowhere convincing.
Yes, yes, it is. See, that is where the question comes. In fact, data has been submitted showing that there was some faults with the machines. And see, the point is, America has this problem. They don't want to accept one flaw about their election process. Every county is free to choose whichever way they want to conduct the elections, and you have to accept it. Okay, so
And
there
if
is
you
the.
read the Time magazine piece that came out, it shows you how there was a 1.5 year consistent pattern to tinker the rules in each county. The Democrats were at it for a whole year, year and a half, tinkering, manipulating, playing with the rules, and Trump was sleeping right through it. The Republicans never picked up on that. They played this game very strategically. They actually started the campaign. They could have run a horse or a donkey. Well, technically, Komali is a donkey, but that's a different matter. But they could have run that, and it would have still won based on the amount of tinkering. I highly recommend you all read the Time magazine piece. It is truly revelatory in the amount of preparation that went into defeating Trump.
You have to also remember, Abhijit, that many Republicans did not consider Trump as part of their party because Trump started out as a Democrat,
He did.
right? And then he became a Republican, and suddenly his message started resonating among the audiences when there were primaries going on. I'm going back to 2016, and somewhere he managed to defeat people like pretty big heavyweights, like for example Bush. Jeb Bush was considered as the right candidate. In fact, in my opinion, he was the best Bush to run for president, and he never got that opportunity. And I don't know if he'll reconsider doing that. But be that as it may, we had some stalwarts. He defeated Rubio. He defeated Ted Cruz. I mean, these were all people who were like the shining lights of the Republican Party. So there is something there. So I think even the Republicans didn't quite toe his line, which is why you see all these wild gyrations sometimes. And let's see how it plays out. Very, very interesting conversation. I mean, we went from Q&A finally to discuss American politics, and we can talk about this all day long. I've now gotten jumped in with both my feet into the American politics, looking at the things, trying to read the tea leaves and so on. But Abhijit, thanks a lot for joining this Ask Abhijit session. This is episode number 3. We'll be back again next Monday. Those of you whose questions were not addressed today, if your question was about LAC or disengagement or salami tactics, consider that topic has been over discussed, so let's not do that. Please come back with a fresh set of questions for next episode. If your question is outside of that, please do send it to us again, and we will now reset the clock. We're not going to take any old questions anymore. What we see next week is the questions that we are going to ask. And thank you very much, Abhijit. And again, see you soon. And please do not forget to subscribe to PGurus channel. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Well, well, very well.